Welcome to another episode of the Impro Pod podcast. My guest today is Michael Osborne, who's a producer and podcaster and consultant. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Luke. It's great to be here.
So tell us a bit about what you do.
Sure, yeah. I am, as you said, a producer and consultant. I'm lucky in that I've been working in podcasting for about 15 years, which is long enough to have a real history with the medium. And I help a wide variety of clients start shows and grow shows. I've got a bit of a track record of having created shows that have attracted distribution partners. And I work in categories like pop culture, history, science. I have roots in academia, so a lot of people who come to me are professors or in university somehow. And the great joy of my job is that I get to ride shotgun on the learning journey of a bunch of different shows. So it's sort of a dream job in the sense that I'm paid to listen to podcasts, most of the day.
Great. So you run a podcast called Famous and Gravy. Tell us a bit about that.
So this is the third show I've created, and it is biographies with a twist. So on every episode, we choose a celebrity who's died, and the question that drives every episode is, would you want that life? It's sort of an empathetic twist on biography. So most biographies are preoccupied with, sort of legacy and impact. How did this person change history? And on our show, it's a little bit more focused on desirability. Our view of things, I guess, is that celebrity is sort of like a mirror, that people become famous because they represent different ideals. Maybe it's our dreams or our aspirations. And, celebrities are symbols in a way. And so when they die and their life story is complete, there's an opportunity for self-reflection and saying, well, how do I interpret this life story? What does it say about what I want to do? What kind of trade-offs I'm making? And it's been a ton of fun. I mean, the show is, pop culture history meets self-reflection existentialism, I guess, if I had to summarize it.
And so I listened to the episode on Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh, no. How did that go over on the other side of the pond? I can't imagine it was I'm dying to know.
Well, I'm not much of a royalist, but I mean... I don't know. Maybe you were a bit harsh.
That one was a risk. I guess, we try and take risks on the show. In terms of Brits, probably our most popular one is Bowie. Although people really like our Alan Rickman episode as well.
So I'm going to play you a piece of music, and it's completely improvised. And I'd like you to tell me what it makes you think of. So that's anything that comes into your mind. Any kind of thoughts, ideas, emotions? What did you think of that?
It took unexpected turns. There was an element of surprise that I wasn't anticipating. I try and listen with a sense of imagery. There's a really wonderful trail in downtown Austin, very near where I am right now, that's covered with bald cypress, these giant, beautiful trees. And I saw myself walking there, people watching. It's one of my favorite things to do is people watch. And I guess the surprising transitions in the music had a similarity with that experience. I like telling stories about strangers. And I think that's what we do when we people watch. And that was what I pictured.
And did you have a sense of who these people were?
I don't think so. I don't think I ever do. It's funny, a minute ago I was talking about my show and this sort of, biographies of celebrities. I think one of the things is that with celebrities, we think we know them, but I think that that's true with people in general. How well do you ever really know anybody? Our external behavior and our external activities are often so different from our internal lives. You meet people and you make, at least my experiences, I make up stories about them, but I'm almost always wrong. Even the people I know really well, I think I've got the wrong story. And I think that's actually maybe the delight in meeting strangers is that whenever somebody defies my expectations and there is that element of surprise and I learn something about somebody I didn't know and it rounds them out in a way I might not have expected, it reminds me about the mystery of humanity.
So I'd like you to tell me a story of some kind.
Sure.
And then I'm going to break the story down into sections and improvise a soundtrack to it.
So I was 13 years old and I was going to camp in the Teton Mountains, which are in Wyoming, the greater Yellowstone area, essentially. And there was 15 other campers and we went to climb a mountain. And there was this old cowboy who was with us and he had his dog. And the 15 of us are scrambling up this mountain. And the last mile or so of the hike was a scree slope. It was all this rock that you'd take 2 steps forward and just slide right back. And it was the most exhausting thing I'd ever done in my life. I remember scrambling up this mountain, trying to get to the summit. And I get to the summit and I'm exhausted and I lay my head down and I fall asleep. I'm just completely wiped out. I woke up and everybody else was fast asleep. The cowboy, the dog, the other 15 campers. And I'm standing at the top of this mountain and it must have been, mid 60s, perfect weather. And I just had this moment where I heard the wind and I'm standing above everybody and just watching them rest. It's a moment of peace and serenity that I've never forgotten. But I guess that's the other feeling that was with me in that moment of peace and serenity was confidence. I was capable of climbing a mountain. You don't know what you're capable of at that age. You don't know who you're growing into, who you might be as a boy and as a man. And there was something about being the first one awake and seeing everybody sleeping that was a real feeling of empowerment.
Okay, so going to go for the sense of the climb of the mountain, the struggle to get up this thing, complete exhaustion, and the vibe of this top of the mountain where everyone is asleep. So were they sleeping in tents?
No, everybody just found there was dwarf grass here and there, but it's completely exposed summit. And everybody just found their own little body shape in the rock or something. And it's just all these bodies just sleeping scattered over the top of this mountain.
Wow. It's quite a bizarre scene, really.
Yeah. I mean, the first one to wake up was the dog. I sat there and I had a moment. I gazed off into the horizon in 360 direction. And then the dog woke up and came over and we had a moment. But yeah, it was a bizarre scene, but it was it was peaceful.
Okay, so you've got sort of struggle and then complete exhaustion and then peaceful. Okay. So what did you think of that?
I felt the challenge of trying to put one foot in front of the other. The feeling of what's the point? And am I making any progress? And do I know if I'm getting there? And then, when we hit some of those high notes, there was a feeling that you get right before you fall asleep. I sometimes have this where there's sort of depth in my memory, a vividness that I'm surprised my mind is capable of, that sort of descends upon you. Because falling asleep is this great mystery. Like, how and why do we ever sleep? I felt that in there. Reminded of the sort of incredible depth that can exist in the micro moments between sleep and wakefulness. I used to have a hard time falling asleep, I guess. And now I find that there's a certain kind of surrender that happens, and memories might come up. These sort of Polaroid snapshots of the distant past, but all of a sudden you can smell the air of those moments right before, sleep comes upon you. I guess that's what I was thinking about.
It's the kind of the drift.
Yes, that's the word.
I'm literally ascending from the bottom of the piano to the top of the piano, and that creates this connection. But the thing is, it's not a sort of nice ascension. So if you were walking up an escalator, for example, you might be like,
yeah, it's a gentle ascension. You're being carried, right? There's no struggle step to step.
The ascension with struggle, I was using these sort of parallel thirds. Creates a real mess with the key. And then I was going back down again. So instead of a continuous ascension, it was up a bit and then, back down a bit again.
Yeah. The frustration that comes with that.
The interesting thing is that when you do that, you get so much more of a satisfaction when you finally get to the top. Much more than, say, you'd taken the lift, which is the same as in reality, really, isn't it? You've put the effort in.
Yeah. I produce a podcast for Stanford Neuroscience, and we just did an episode on exactly this phenomenon, that there is something, neurologically measurable in the way dopamine is released for something that you have to work hard for versus something that you're just given, that there's something in our behavior that is actually conditioned for hard work and the reward that comes with it. There's something about disconnecting in nature that reminds us of the value of that struggle. To have to work hard to climb a mountain teaches something fundamental on some level.
Yeah, sure. And so did you feel that music reflected your story?
Yeah. It's a precious memory in a way. There's a part of me that is still looking for meaning. Like, what does that represent? Why was there that feeling of peace? But it was unmistakable. For me, joy and happiness, it's often tethered to the future in a way. Whenever I feel really good and really happy and really excited, there's a part of my mind that says, oh, okay, now I found happiness, and this is how I'm going to feel for forevermore. It's sort of like I project that forward. It's rare that I feel joy and happiness in a moment, and I'm aware this is passing. This is not going to last the rest of my life. Enjoy just this moment. And that's one of the first times I can remember having that thought consciously. Enjoy this moment. They're going to wake up. We're going to climb back down this mountain. This is, like everything in life, transient. So soak it up. And I felt like in knowing that and having awareness around that, I was able to. It's just a good reminder of how joy works, how that feeling works. It's always transient.
So I'd like you to tell me another story of some kind.
All right. So I went to college at the University of Montana, which is in western Montana. It's in the mountains. And one afternoon, a friend of mine and I decided to go for a hike around this lake. We had our cameras with us. This was going to be a bit of a photography expedition, amateur photographers, right? And we're walking around this lake, and it's a beautiful day. It's in late fall. Colors are changing. There's a lot of, golds and reds in the trees. I look over to this hill, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, is this 60-pound bobcat. And she is walking right towards us. And I have this moment where I say to my friend, Scott, and that's all I got out was his name, Scott. Scott saw the bobcat. We both froze. The cat comes walking right up next to me. It walks by me like a house cat, brushes my leg, then walks over to Scott, and we are frozen. We just can't believe what's happening. Walks over to Scott, crouches down, and then leaps up onto his shoulders and starts like a house cat petting itself against his head and is licking into his ear, and he is completely terrified. I say very quietly, I think I have a sandwich in my bag. Should I throw it on the ground? And Scott says, get this effing thing off of me. And so I throw the sandwich on the ground. The cat jumps off of Scott and eats this ham sandwich that I have. And we are just standing there with our jaws at the ground. We can't believe what's just happened. We ended up realizing this cat is not a threat. Somebody must have fed it. It's been domesticated somehow. And it ended up following us for the rest of the hike. We walk around this lake to this gorgeous waterfall. We've got our camera, so we have all these pictures of this beautiful bobcat. And eventually she starts climbing on me a little bit. And there's a photograph that I have to this day on my refrigerator of this cat standing on my lap with this waterfall in the background. And that's my bobcat story.
It's a great story. What was the vibe of the lake like? Is it sort of relaxing?
Oh, yeah. Serene. That kind of stark fall air where the first snowstorm is right around the corner and you can kind of feel the air being crisp and thin. The lake was pure. I mean, the water was, you could see right to the bottom. It was like glass, and the clarity was incredible. And the trail just sort of meandered, pine needles on the floor and a kind of soft forest bottom. And then until you get to the last part where this creek enters the lake, and then you have to climb up a series of rocks. It's a bit of a scramble to get to this waterfall. It's just crashing down and flowing into the lake.
Music-wise, then I'm going to try and get a sense of the lake, and then the sort of sheer terror of this cat that arrives, and then the kind of, whoa, just freeze, don't do anything, and then you throw the sandwich, and then you find out that it's actually quite tame.
was excellent. I really felt the sort of three acts of the whole story in a way I hadn't seen before, because there's a sort of simple, stark simplicity to begin, right? And there is that feeling of just a couple of oxygen molecules in the air or something. And then there's the radical, like the way the day was going, and then the turn it takes when something terrifying, this cat comes over the hill. All of a sudden, it's, dread and fear, and we were frozen. But then, the moment when we realized it's okay and it's all going to be okay, there was a kind of mirror reflection with the first act where but with a richness that hadn't existed before. That it's not just okay, but the beautiful day and the safety that we felt now with this animal all of a sudden had an added richness that we weren't expecting. And it's almost like these things that were in conflict find a convergence point and a harmony.
And so for the lake, I was going for the quite minimal thing. It's like stillness, but also cold but crisp. And then for the cat, it's that kind of, what is it? Claws are sharp. It's sort of scary. You don't know what it's going to do. Trying to get a sense of the sort of the way they prowl around. It's kind of like literally prowling a bit on the keyboard.
Yeah, there's a grace and power to it all, right? Yeah.
When you realize it's a friendly cat, you're kind of bit jazzy, maybe a bit too jazzy. The kind of thing about like rocking back and forth, I was sort of trying to get the sense of a purr.
Yeah, totally.
Did that music work for you?
It did, yeah. Love the idea of having a soundtrack to my life and to my stories and to my memories. And I felt like what you really captured well was where is this going? Like it would start off a day with a lake, and it's surprise transitions. That's why I love that story, and I felt like you captured that well with your music.
Would you have done anything differently?
I don't know. I wouldn't have thought about it until you asked, but the music of the cat, I feel like there was a kind of bigness that the power and the fear sort of existed in the way the cat has a slow, deliberative, it's in control, it's in command. And so there was a kind of bigness I heard. Maybe it wasn't about bigness so much as self-possession or something that the animal had, and a kind of confidence maybe. If I were to work on it or workshop it anywhere, that's probably the part I'd workshop.
So more confidence, but less bigness.
Yeah. I mean, you did have it, the fluid movement of a cat and the way, you can see the musculature and the sort of command of its body and the way any cat will own the space. You see that in all cats. You see that in house cats. You see that in, the predators out in the wild. And it's not necessarily about its size. It's more about its self-possessed power.
Okay, try that. Self-possessed power, confidence. Does that convey power and confidence?
Yeah, I don't know how much you've ever sat and watched a cat, but the way you'll sort of study different parts of their body, and their powerful hind legs and light on their feet. So yes, that was closer to the image I had in my mind. Yeah.
And it's interesting, like as I'm playing, I'm kind of visualizing their movement. I think that's fascinating, the way that you can pick a cat's movement out of a piece of music.
Yeah, totally. They talk about math being the language of the universe. I mean, music's the language of the universe. We actually did an episode on, a lot of it was about the healing power of music, is my memory. Music is medicine, which has a very rich, body of research out there. I mean, my experience with music, I'm not a musician. I can strum 6 or 7 chords on a guitar. I think all creative endeavors are like this. If I go back to that moment with the cat and with photography, one thing that's great about, a very nice camera is you start framing your visual experience of the world. And I think music begins to frame your, sensory sound experience of the world. And I think story begins to frame your experiential, movement through the world. I believe very strongly in creative outlets in terms of awakening parts of our mind that might otherwise go ignored.
Yeah. So, what did you get out of this podcast?
It's funny, and you asking me what stories would I like to share, I am reminded that I am most connected with myself when I am in the wilderness, when I am in nature. And that is a reminder that I kind of always need, and I think is more available, not just because the woods are out there, but it's more available in my memories and in my mind than I sometimes give it credit for. And that there is a wonder and element of surprise. You never know where things are going to go. It was fun sharing these stories with you because I'd forgotten the twists they take. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. All right. So, is there anything you would like to plug on the Impro Pod?
Yeah, I am very proud of my current podcast, Famous and Gravy Biographies from a Different Point of View. On every episode, we choose a dead celebrity and we try and ask the question, what can a celebrity life story teach us about ourselves? These are all dead celebrities. And then I run a production and consulting firm called 14th Street Studios, where I help people produce podcasts, grow podcasts, and I lead workshops and teach as well. So if you're interested in finding out more about me, I'm active on LinkedIn and 14thstreetstudios.com.
Great. And what was the neuroscience episode that you referenced?
So this is a podcast I produce for Stanford Neuroscience called, I love this title, From Our Neurons to Yours. We did one recently about the neuroscience of hard work, essentially. And then we have another episode, and I'm happy to send the links, about music as medicine and the neuroscience of music. It's a really rich episode.
Yeah, I'd be interested to listen to that. So thank you very much for being on the podcast. It's been really interesting listening to your stories and hearing your insight into podcasting. Join us again for another episode of ImproPod. Thanks for listening.